Hello, good evening. The news gang is here, or shall I say has been here for a while. Yes, on this day that we are talking about dams and what the DCI says are damned contracts, all right? But we'll also talk about those 7 gentlemen who became president for a while. But let's begin, first of all, with the Deputy President speaking earlier today about these 2 dams that are at the center of the latest controversy.
The same way we are contracting in Kirinyaga, in Thiba Dam, Karemenu Dam, Itare Dam, Thwake Dam, Aror and Kimwarer, we are using the same principle to ensure that we have water and we have proper expenditure of public resources. Wale wanatuambia ya kwamba tumepoteza bilioni 21 Kimwarer na Aror, watuambie hiyo taarifa wametoa wapi. Ile pesa imelipwa ni bilioni 7. Na hiyo pesa bilioni 7 ambayo imelipwa haijapotea, kwa sababu tuko na mpango ya sawasawa.
A very interesting development there, ladies and gentlemen, because before that there was Senator Murkomen's, his statement in the Senate, we just heard him now, and the CS for Treasury, Rotich, actually also had a statement that tried to explain this. Interesting similarities though in the explanations. Francis Gashuri, coincidence, or the facts are just the same?
Well, when some of these things happen, people have to regroup and find a strategy to deal with some of these situations. Let's start there. Secondly, the timing is also...
Why is it that DP's people regrouping? That's what I...
Because clearly, they seemed like the target in this particular matter, specifically. Yeah? And you could see, even the list that came from the DCI, you could see clearly where it was heading. And so it was incumbent on them to come up with, you know, one concerted effort in terms of a response. But be it as it may, I take interest in what the DP is saying. Not just Aror and Kimwarel, look at others too. So if there are issues here, look at issues even there. So basically it's you too. Check there too. So basically, does it sound like kusetiana? If you look at this too. These are, you can clearly tell there's a pattern. If you're saying there are issues here, and loudly so, look at the issues even here. Well, the numbers that are coming from the DCI, the 21 billion or the 7 billion or the 9 billion or whichever amount of money that is being put out there by the DCI, maybe the numbers may confuse us and confuse Kenyans, because eventually probably when you go to the courts, you may not see the 21 billion shillings in the charge sheet. Maybe the figure will reduce, but that does not take away the fact that there are issues that are being raised, substantial one, about the alleged loss of resources. I think that is where the focus should be. Was there any loss or was there no loss? And if there was loss, or any loss, of what amount? Because when these figures are floated around, eventually you may end up having a confused situation and probably even mix up the public more, because they'll say, why are guys being charged with loss of, let's say, 200, 300 million shillings and not 21 billion shillings?
But Jamila, as you jump in, it's very interesting that there is a claim by the DCI that there is something that is not right with these 2 dams. It's interesting that within government, there seem to be very many different conversations going on, some of them at cross purposes seemingly, because the DP is basically saying, like, hey, Bwana DCI, whatever you are saying there is not true, and yet this is the office that does all of those things. What is that dynamic going on in government, where you would expect that the fight against corruption, if it is really a government project, would actually be single-minded and would be speaking the very same language that let's go get those bad guys? You
actually said, Joseph, that the DCI, there is investigation in that word, Director of Criminal Investigation, and that is the mandate they are given to investigate, and it's what they've been doing since the DCI was formed, and they know what they're supposed to be doing. In fact, as we speak, since this scandal broke, the 21 billion or 7 billion now, as we are told, he asked about 107 representatives of 107 companies to avail themselves at the DCI. Why would you come up with such a number, 107 representatives? I think once you break down each representative from each company that was named on that list that came out, there are hundreds of people to come to the DCI and be questioned about what is happening in those two dams. Now, since he requested for those, not even, it's actually they had to show up to come and be questioned. Until today, 50 representatives from 50 companies have gone to the DCI to give statements. And now, the DCI, that is information from the DCI, tells us that they're using the information given by these companies to find out exactly what was delivered and where it was delivered. And on top of that, apparently, there are two warehouses that are in Nairobi and Eldoret that have been marked for a raid. Because apparently from the information that had been given by these companies, there are two warehouses where things have been kept. This is from according to the DCI. That came out today. And also, one of the companies that was asked to come and give statements says they received 8 million shillings. They have not yet delivered the structures, the steel equipment for construction that they're supposed to have delivered, but they were already given 8 million shillings. And in fact, representatives of that company were ready to come and give back the money. The DCI saying we've been given 8 million for something we have not delivered. Payment was done before. We have the money, you have not spent it, you're willing to give it back to the DCI. That is just one company that we have information about. What about all the others? When you talk about food and wine, 15 million shillings, aerial survey, 18 million, air tickets, 13 million, generators, 6 million, and the big one, pillows and bed sheets for 4 million shillings, and something they're calling physical relocation studies, 19 million shillings. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money, Joe, and it's mind-boggling that we are now talking about billions, not millions anymore. Ni kama ukiiba milioni kadhaa, wewe hujaiba vizuri. You need to be stealing in the billions for you to have been stolen.
But there's something interesting. I know Yvonne will be coming in just now, but Kaikai was talking about the timing of this whole thing. Right. What is really going on? Why would the DP, for example, speak the way he did in the public manner that he did? It seemed a little out of character. I know that at the end of the day, there's usually politics also when we are talking about corruption, but that's interesting, is it not?
Very, very interesting indeed, and it points out at the wider context of these affairs. You know, it should be remembered how this government is structured, for example. It is actually a coalition government. And there's a reason in this country why elections are so hotly contested, bitterly contested even. And then after that, look at how positions or power is shared. And then you can actually tell where, from 2013 to 2019, where the URP wing of Jubilee is operating in, where they hold in terms of positions in government. And then you can also tell where the TNA, the National Alliance of Uhuru Kenyatta, is holding in terms of positions in power. Now, for the last several months now, what used to be the URP wing really has been on the receiving end as far as these corruption cases are concerned. Talk of Kenya Power, talk of Kenya Pipeline, talk now of KVDA, because we are in the presence of a monumental scandal, 21 billion in terms of these scandals. Now, what we saw this evening again, apart from what we saw earlier with the Deputy President, is an immediate attempt to politicize this issue. What will the politicization do? It will take the numbers away. It will convert 22 million to 2022. It's a more attractive thing to sell to the people. We watched the senator here speaking and even alleged, you know, he spoke about the Kalenjin. And he forgets, in Eldoret, in a social hall, during one of the hearings on the National Cereals and Produce Board sessions, Kalenjin elders were saying, what have you done to us? What is this about? We've never suffered this much. So what we'll see in the next few days is a quick attempt to run away from the figures, run away from 4 million for pillows, run away from 13 million for tiles. What are the tiles for, by the way? The dam, first of all...
No, but actually today when our reporter Enoch Sikolia was there, and they actually said that it was to help finish the KVDA Plaza,
yes, because
they were going to operate from there.
That gets even more complicated because is that the purpose for which the money was
set aside? Looks like a diversion of funds.
It's a diversion of funds. But just to complete the point here, Joe, is on all scandals in this country, politicians have always rushed to politicizing it, so that they have the support of the base, the masses. Those people will now start saying, it's not about 21 billion, it's about our people. Murkomen is saying it's not about these figures, it's about 2022. Mm-hmm. It's about stopping William Ruto from becoming president. That may resonate with the masses down there. You'll start getting them worked up, oh, they don't want us to be president. So in the next few days, what we'll expect to see is that contest between DCI, who has been trying to keep to the facts and figures and numbers, and politicians will be saying, no, this is about 2022.
But I listened to Murkomen, and he seemed to say something interesting with regard to the manner in which the DCI is conducting the investigations. He was saying, hey, why is it that all this information is out in the public domain and they're forming part of newspaper headlines every day? That usually investigations don't quite go like that, that you really do your investigations quietly and then come out with something.
Look, there's a lot of politics surrounding this, and it almost seems like a distraction, right? So don't look here, look over here. Don't look at this, look at this. And so allow me to veer off the politics for just a moment and just ask some critical questions about this project. So number one, the track record of this Italian company. This same Italian company for these two Aror and Kimwarer dams was the same one that was involved in Itare Dam. Itare Dam is only 43% complete, and the reason that has happened is because the company itself was unable to finish the project. Okay? So they're now looking to subcontract Itare Dam. Let me also mention here that this same company, by the way, is not just involved in Aror, Kimwarer, and Itare. There are also two other dams. So in total, this company, CMC Di Ravenna, is in charge of 5 dams, including the one in Radat, Marigat, and in Kitinu, in Kubu, in Meru County. So when you take a look at all of this, and even the manner in which the contract was done, which even Senator Murkomen talks about, it's called an engineering, procurement, and construction contract, EPC. So they get to do the project engineering design, procure all materials and equipment necessary, and most importantly, they're allowed to seek funding for the projects. Now, they may say this is something that happens quite often, but it almost seems like the government played a very minimal role in the conceptualization of these projects that they are now saying are really important and will
let me read for you what the Treasury CS said in a statement early this evening. And he says that the National Treasury and Planning was involved after, and this after is in bold, the process of project identification, prioritization, and procurement was completed, listen to this, by the then line ministry and the implementing agency, that is KVDA. That the National Treasury and Planning was involved after the process of project identification,
and which was the line
prioritization, and procurement was completed by the then line ministry and the implementing
which was water and irrigation.
Did they mention? I think it's regional
but it was, well, it was regional development. And we'll get to that in a moment. But how is it that the ministry, the treasury, our purse, is involved at,
he says,
at the tail end?
He explains further. He says, as per the Constitution and Public Finance Management Act 2012 and subsequent amendments, the role of the National Treasury and Planning is confined to mobilization of resources, external or domestic, to finance government projects. For the said dams, the responsible ministry then and KVDA forwarded to the National Treasury the projects for funding.
Okay, now let me raise a couple of issues there. First of all, the responsible ministry, like you said, is it clear? These projects, and the signing was done and the allocation between 2015 and 2017. Yes. And that time, it was under the Water and Irrigation Ministry, which was being headed then by Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa. Here's the interesting thing, because this is where the CS Chelugui says,
it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. And understand this. So 2015 to 2017 is when the projects are mooted. But in 2018, when Chelugui is appointed CS, at around the same time, the irrigation department is moved from water and irrigation to agriculture, which is now under CS Kiunjuri. However, this project is being done by KVDA. KVDA falls under the Ministry of East African Affairs and Regional Development. And part of this, you might wonder, is then what creates the confusion in terms of reporting lines and even accountability. So who did what? Which then gives a lot of people plausible deniability. Wasn't me. This was signed when I wasn't there. By the time I came, this was moved here. But wait, the responsible ministry was this one.
Because
KVDA was the one doing that.
Gashuk, this statement, I am actually quite intrigued by why this after is in bold.
Yes.
You're saying the National Treasury and Planning was involved after
well,
the
it's
process.
to remove themselves.
Yeah.
That plausible
So
deniability.
it's those other guys. Not
The making of a scandal.
Right.
I think that's where we need to also confine
That sounds
ourselves.
like the name of a movie.
How does this mega corruption happen? One, it starts at a project that is societal, has societal importance. You're told this dam is going to fundamentally change how you live. It is going to help us deal with food security. You know, it is profiled in such a way that you feel like this is it.
It's heaven.
And even when the amount of money is mentioned, you're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Looking at what it's going to do.
You would take loans for it.
Yeah, looking at what it's going to do, it is okay.
And what you're saying about the dams that are being involved in this being a social project, we have 60 dams in the country, projects, worth over 500 billion shillings. So you can see how that would be attractive for anyone thinking this might be a place to do that. Yeah.
Also, once a project is mooted in that style and you're told this project is important, is of national importance, you know, the investment is worth it. So when the figures are floated, you're like, okay. And then what they also don't tell us is that for every foreign company, it has local agent, a local agent or agent. So when the big money is mentioned, a good chunk of it.
However, let me raise this.
The pillow guys,
the pillow guys.
In when you speak about, he mentioned this that I find interesting. So in point number 16, he says the projects, typical projects like these that are funded by Exim Bank, what are called concessional loans, come with a condition that the contractor must come from the donor country, and as much as possible, most of the equipment should come from that country as a measure to promote their exports of their products. In this case, the project contractor is Italian. Okay. A number of fundamental issues with this. What does this do for the manufacturing sector, for jobs locally, for local companies that are able to produce this? So is this Italy coming in, even in terms of skills transfer? So if they're bringing in their equipment, their people, and all of these things, including seeking the financing, which CMC did,
and they take away,
Italy,
and they also take away our money.
So there's certain issues with that I would find very uncomfortable when we're looking at the big four. And
when you mentioned that issue about having the company and the expertise coming from the donor country. This is the same thing with Galana Kulalu project with the Israeli firm that is doing the work there. But you talked about social and the importance of such things and the fact that we have 60 dams worth 500 billion in this country. I'd like, Robert, if you can hear me, to play the sound bites from the residents of those areas where the dams are supposed to be constructed, and then we'll move forward.
Sijajua hata wanataka kimaji kiasi gani. Ningejua sasa kama hii mto itaweza toshelesha hawa ama hiyo maji, sijui hata hii mambo ya hiyo damu.
Mtu mwenye anaitwa Parsosio alisema ya kwamba msiandike yani makaratasi ovyo. Tuliandika makaratasi zingine, akasema mliandika karatasi ya maji lakini haikuwa ya maji. Kuanzia siku hiyo nikaona ya kwamba nakaa hii mambo ya hii maji ya Talal si straightforward.
You see, the resident there, she's suspicious because her worry is this doesn't look straightforward, and she's worried about her land, what's going to happen to it. And the old man had said something. He said, naona tu wazungu akipita hapa. And we've just seen two of those said wazungus in the story that was run by Enoch Sikolia, two Italian gentlemen. The one who's the project manager for the Aurora Dam project is a man called Mauro Abafati, and the chief finance officer for both dam project, a guy called Mario Ruolo. And they've said that they actually have a camp where they have set up, where they are working from, and they'll take, I think we'll be able to see those pictures tomorrow. And they're saying that right now they're on their designing stage, because we're all asking 25 months later, wamefanya nini? So I'm talking about what they've said, and I was listening to it, and they're saying they're on the designing stage. They're saying, oh, the money they've been given as what I think the
7
senator
billion.
was saying. They were saying it was for the initial stages, the designing, the bringing in of machines, the doing of the groundwork, and they're saying for the Aurora Dam, they're building a man-made lake because there's a lot of water there, and the electricity that will be generated from that area is worth 60 megawatts, while the Kamoro one is 20 megawatts. So to them, the way the Italians are speaking is that we don't even get any money. They're saying the money is directly deposited to a bank account in Italy.
their country.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted us to move this a little bit to the broader context.
Joe, before you move, because you asked a very fundamental question to Yvonne with regard to how the DCI is releasing information, has he done it in a way that invites suspicion? I think it probably raises questions, because when you don't do an official statement, and all the media houses are getting, from sources and quoting sources, compared to what the DPP has been doing. DPP does statements, very official, send it to media houses. This kind of openness also needs to be encouraged, especially if the information is not exclusive to a particular media house. If it's for all media houses, do an official press statement, release it in public, own it, so that you don't raise suspicions. Because in the past few years, some of the corruption scandals have actually been released as leakages to particular media houses, and that doesn't work well. It invites suspicion on the part of those who are mentioned. They would say, why is this happening? So if it's public information that you need to release to all media houses, do it.
And it stands the risk of obfuscating the whole thing in the politics and everything.
Yes,
but the President Uhuru Kenyatta, speaking today, he speaks about corruption, and for some reason, he decides to speak so long that he also speaks in Kikuyu.
Some things are better said in mother tongue.
And I'll ask Gashuri for an authentic translation. But I found that quite interesting, and it looked like he was actually quite agitated about everything that is going on. Gashuri, he said what exactly in Kikuyu, and why did he choose to speak in mother tongue?
I would not know why.
Who was he talking to?
Well, he went to a burial in Murang'a County, and he spoke about many things. Actually, he had come from a function at the judiciary, and he had said some very interesting things, that if the judiciary does not help per se in the fight against corruption, then Kenyans will take it on their own, watachukulia sheria mikononi. And I found that very interesting.
What would that mean?
So what are you saying, that Kenyans watachukulia sheria mikononi if the fight against corruption is not dealt with in that way? Is he also sounding like he has given up, or he's not sure about it? Because I probably think he should be the guy leading.
No, but you see, if corruption goes to a certain degree, there are terrible things that have happened in countries where people actually become lawless, and they say, oh, these guys are taking all the money, so we can use our guns and other things to also...
Such a statement would be very nice if it came from somebody else. But coming from the president, it shows something very different. It shows the person who has been entrusted by Kenyans to deal with these issues and streamline governance and basically make sure that things are in order.
So was it surrender?
I don't know.
Because if he's saying that, nothing can happen, the judiciary won't do it, I won't do it.
But the statement he made in Murang'a wasn't about giving up. That one was actually a very strident one.
Warning. Precisely.
It's a warning.
In fact, the best thing to do is to listen to that soundbite, so that I can give you an authentic translation of it, word by word as it goes.
I think we need to take a break and then come back with that soundbite. Yes,
Yeah.
Robert, you had that. When you come back, we'll have to listen to the president, what he said in Murang'a. Yes, chief translator, mwenyewe yuko hapa.
I gladly take that function.
You're watching News Gang. There's so much more we have to say, we have to hear, we have to get feedback. Don't forget that we're scrolling what you're seeing across the screen. Keep talking to us. We'll be back.